We have right here inside Engage, a visual artist, yeah, by the name of Gavin Jordan. Good afternoon to you, Gavin. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sarah. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for coming on Engage. Now, before we go into your creative side, let's talk about your corporate side. We hear that you are a corporate executive by day. No, you have that unique ability
Uh,
of exercising logic and facts. Give us an understanding of what that means to you.
sure, I'll be happy to. So Sarah, I'm actually the chief operating officer of the Barita Cornerstone Group here in Jamaica.
Ah,
And I'm an accountant by training. Right,
what
I
you say?
spent most of my life, in the accounting field.
Mhm.
And I'm now the chief operating officer.
Oh,
So when I mentioned that I use logic and facts,
yes.
it stems from that accounting training and what I do on a daily basis.
Okay, so how did the visual art come into play now? Tell
That's an
me.
interesting question
Yeah.
because I actually did art at CXE level, and I never thought that that could be a necessary career option based
Oh,
on and so I studied business right after that. So this I believe was something that was basically dormant within me for quite a while, right? I
okay.
mean, CXE art, if you know what that is really about
I
learning how to
do.
draw,
I
perspective shading. You did little or no painting at that time,
yeah.
and it wasn't until recently in 2016, which is like some 20 odd years later, that I just had the need and the urge to pick up that drawing, and then that led to me now doing paintings, and it has led to what you now see today, which is the type of painting I do, which I call sculptured paintings.
Sculptured painting. Wow, wow, wow. So
Yes,
tell me something. This runs in your family?
it does. It does. Truth be told, it does. My father is artistic. I mean, he didn't do art in a professional way, but I grew up seeing him doing paintings here and there as a hobby. And I have a few brothers who, one who went to Edna as well, and all of us had the ability to draw, but none of us went into it in any sort of professional way.
Mm. Except you, because you are here. No,
I don't even
yes.
know if I'll consider myself professional, but thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. Well, it runs in your family, and you're also a self-taught artist. Now, walk
Yes.
us through the first time when you discovered that I really can do this thing. What was that
So
like to you at
so
that moment?
yes, so I started in 2016. I started sketching, and I was posting these sketches on Facebook and Instagram, and my colleagues from Jamaica College, which was the high school I went to, started responding, and they were saying, Jordan, but you still have it. And I was like, have what? Because I did not remember that of this long time ago that
Yeah.
that I could draw. And then that kind of reassurance I was getting on social media, I felt like, what, since I can draw, let me just try and paint. So I bought a bunch of paints. I went on YouTube and I researched how to mix paints and what how to mix what to get what color. And
Mm-hmm.
I did a bunch of paintings, had them in my house, and my family members would come over and they're like, "Who is this artist that you have laying around the house?" And when I told them it was me, they were
Yes.
like, "No, man, that is crazy. There's no way you could have created those pieces and you just started painting." So that is when I knew I had something special. My wife decided that she was going to register me to participate in Ligani Art Festival,
Ah,
right? And this is
yeah.
after painting for about 10 months, right? So I
Yeah.
took all the paintings I was doing that was laying around the house, took it to Ligani Art Festival, and I had a really good showing. I sold like
Yeah.
about, more than half of the pieces I took to the show.
What you say?
So yes,
And there you have them just laying around the house like that.
they're just laying around the house like that.
Bless God for your wife, huh? Bless God. Now, for those who don't know what sculptured work is, art is, what is it?
So I coined that phrase sculptured paintings, and what it really is I guess it would fall into the genre of mixed media. So I actually use screws to
Screw.
create a three-dimensional painting on a canvas board. And this was something I created after a period of exploring different ways to paint, different ideas. And I came across an artist called Michael Murphy, who does what is called perceptual art. And these large installations that are three-dimensional. And I
Mm.
said to myself, I wanted to create something that has that 3D effect. Right. So I started using nails, using, wooden balls suspended from a string. And after this period of just experimenting with various things, I
Yeah.
stumbled on using screws. And I discovered that by using screws, you could actually place the screws at different depth in the painting to create a three-dimensional image. So that's
Wow.
what I call sculptured paintings.
Wonderful. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Oh my goodness. No, sculptured painting. You coined that term, right?
Yes.
You did. No, the main feature for you is the human figure. Tell us more about that, Jordan.
So when I think about why I paint, so I want the viewers of my work to appreciate or learn to look beyond what I call the single story, right? And look at things that are otherwise seen as insignificant, right? I mean, when you interact
Mm.
with a person, you really only get one side of who they are as a person. So I
Uh,
like to explore the concept of human figure, human emotion, and a
yes.
lot of my paintings involve people. And what I want viewers to appreciate is what else is happening in that scene beyond what is obvious.
And we're showing them no your work right now. So beautiful.
Correct. Thank you.
You are welcome. My God, my God. No, you mentioned that you use, the screws and those things. So it's 3D. Now walk us through this process.
So what I typically do, I drive around with a camera in my car, right?
Yes.
So,
Just
so when I
randomly, you
see,
just drive around. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so when I see something on the street, I will snap a photo, and then when I go back to my studio at home, then I will do various sketches of that person, create a scene, an imaginary scene around that, and I will look at it, and sometimes it gives me an inspiration to take that piece in a particular direction. Then I will do
Amazing.
a silhouette of that piece, and then I will bore all of these holes that after that, then I will put in screws at different levels to create that 3D, three-dimensional effect. So that's typically what the process will entail. There's a little bit more, but that is just a summarized version of it.
Wow. 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 Because I'm seeing that's Tammy Jane, right? And Wayne Davio. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Wow. That's beautiful. So if you're wondering what we're looking at right now, we're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. And we are showing Gavin's work. It's wow. It is a work of art. It's so beautiful. I would have never thought that you could do this sculptured painting by Gavin Jordan. It's so beautiful. Now,
Thank you,
Gavin,
Sarah.
apart
Yes.
from just driving with your camera in your car, what inspires your work? Taking the
So
pictures.
yeah, so as I said, I mean, I'm inspired by human emotion, human figure, human form. Um, I keep saying to myself, why do I, after working 10, 12 hours a day, go home and pay 2 hours into the wee hours of the morning, or spend all of my weekends doing it?
Yes.
And it, it's ever since I started painting, I've had this insatiable appetite to create the best painting ever, right?
Yes.
And for me, that best painting includes some element of 3D, which is what I'm now doing. But I don't believe that I've created the best one yet, and that keeps me going, and that keeps me
Ah,
exploring, right, and keeps me trying to develop, what I consider to be the best piece.
that's so beautiful. So you use, I'm trying to understand how you do it. So you have the screws, right? That means you spend a lot of money on screws.
I
So,
do.
so you paint the screws after. Tell me what you do. You have the canvas, right? Do you use a canvas or
Yes, I use
right?
a canvas.
And then what you
Yeah.
do with a nail, you hammer it inside and then, What are
Well,
you doing?
it's so it's not a nail, it's a screw. So let me just
Sorry,
correct you
I
there,
beg your pardon. It's a screw, children of God, right?
right? So I have to create pilot holes, right? So like each of these paintings, it's anywhere from 1,200 screws to 3,500 screws. Like
My
that piece you're
God.
looking at, is about 3,600 screws just now.
Oh,
So I would bore pilot holes at each of these at the same distance between each other. And then I will insert a screw in each of them, and each of those screws are at different depth, right? So
mm,
one may be at 1 inch, another at 2 inch, another at 1.5 inch. And that creates that three-dimensional feel. So when you look at the painting from different angles, you get a different experience, and the painting actually moves in front of you. Um,
yes.
yeah, so that's the process.
And you paint on top of the screws.
And then I paint every screw on top of every screw. Yes.
Oh my goodness, this is just amazing because I don't know how long does this usually take you like to do one artwork?
So it depends on the size and the complexity involved in that sculptured painting. All right. So it will take anywhere from 4 weeks. I mean, there are some pieces that I've been working on for 3.5, 4 months. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it really takes from 4 weeks to about 4 months at the longer end.
Okay. Now how do you find time for your wife? Because you know you mentioned your wife and all of them something. Your wife must have said, after I registered you, you're blowing all right. How do you find time for your wife?
So let me just explain how I find time generally, right? So
Yes.
I really, I'm deliberate in just scheduling my time,
Yes.
right? So I have to dedicate time to my corporate job, um, and that, as I said, it's normally 10, 12, depending on what is going on. It could be 13, 14 hours out of my day,
My God.
and then I make a deliberate effort to be consistent in at trying to paint every night, right? So like if I get
Every
home
night.
at 8, I'll probably do an hour or two,
My God.
um, and that is consistent, right? And of course I try to squeeze the family time in between some of that,
You
and try
try.
to
You try.
compensate on weekends as well, right? But
Okay.
I really schedule a lot of my time and make a deliberate effort to be consistent in painting.
Beautiful art pieces. No, what's the most difficult art piece you've ever done?
I think there's one with the donkey a while ago that was shown on screen
Uh,
was the most intricate. I mean, it involved a lot of colors, a lot of different depth and levels of putting the screws. So that one took me quite a long time to get done.
yes, yes. And you know, Jordan, what I love about your artwork is just it's not basic. Definitely not basic. It you can see that it takes a lot of time to do. And my word, who would have thought? I'm just in awe. I'm here, right? Because I did art up to this CSEC level as well.
Okay, okay.
If you had done this, what did you do for your final project when you were in fifth form?
Actually, I don't quite recall. I really don't quite recall. It
Yes.
was so long ago. I mean,
Okay.
I'm dating myself, right? But I left high school. I would have done CXE in '94, so it has been a while.
Yeah. I was born then.
There you go.
There you go. But it's so beautiful. And you're self-taught?
I'm self-taught.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Now, where can people find you? So we're interested in your art, right? And we want to spruce up our living space. So when we have friends over, we want to say, yeah. So how can
So,
people find you?
so Sarah, my pieces are very limited, to be honest, because given the length of time it takes to do these pieces, and the fact that I am a part-time artist, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably do about 20 pieces for the entire year, right?
Yeah.
I am doing a solo exhibition, however, right, which would be the first time I'm doing that, and it will be between the 19th and 20th of November.
Mm.
It will be held at the Sky Gallery on Phoenix Avenue. So
Sky
people
Gallery,
can
Phoenix Avenue.
Yes, so people can come and check out that exhibition. I will have about 16 or 17 pieces on
Hmm.
show. And that will give people an opportunity to see these, up close in person, and also the ability to purchase if they desire.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
But
No,
other than that, I mean, I do have an Instagram page, and it's Jordan underscore art underscore 876,
hold on, repeat
and
that again slowly.
it's at Jordan underscore art underscore 876.
All right, awesome. How much for one of your artwork? What's the price range? You probably don't
I
want to
was
disclose
I
that.
was I was fearing that question, right?
Yes,
What I would say, Sarah, is that people should come out and come to the show. The pieces are being priced, but and just to give a number out there, because you did mention that I spend a lot of money on screws. So to
yes,
get them to this position, it takes a lot and it costs a lot,
yes,
right? I have done commissions in the past, and my commissions will typically go from like $1,000 for
yes.
starting point, depending on the size, and then it elevates after that.
All right, beautiful.
Mhm.
And you're about to give us the contact number?
So people can contact me through Instagram, or they can contact me directly on my website. And my website is www.jordanart876.com.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Gavin Jordan, for sharing your work of art.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. It was a
Uh,
pleasure.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Ah, beautiful, beautiful. It's so nice. I wish you could do one for me as well. He used to have them laying down in his house and all those things, but really beautiful. Now we're gonna go for a quick break and we will be right back. Stay tuned, don't go nowhere.
Grace, celebrating 100 years of taste that moves you.
The time by Grace Foods is
3 minutes after 6.
Whether it's a Saturday soup or a comfort meal, a great soup stash to make you feel complete. Spice up your pot at home, or you can link soup before soup on the go. Chicken noodle, pumpkin and cock noodle make you feel better. Taste tradition in a spoonful. Great soup make every day greater. One sip me last in the flavor. Great soup make every day greater. One sip me last in the flavor.
Grace, celebrating 100 years of taste that moves you.
Yeah.
Embrace the Promise is coming to Jamaica with Ron Kinoli, Jonathan Nelson, Prodigal Son, Dr. KJ, Carrie Sales, Jermaine Edwards, Joan Flemings, and more. Gate prizes of up to $300,000 at each location. 876-784-2992. Manning's High School, Westmoreland, Saturday, October 29, 6 p.m. Randy Williams Entertainment Center, Sunday, October 30 at 5 p.m. Sponsored by Bugs Innovations, Love FM, and more. Embrace the Promise. International gospel music ministers Chandler Moore and Naomi Rain from Maverick City take the stage live at the National Stadium alongside Kevin Downswell, Carlene Davis, Rhoda Isabella, and Rondell Positive as Kingdom Culture presents the Well Encounter, the ultimate worship experience. National Stadium, Saturday, December 10. Early bird tickets at spuropen.com/TWE22. Follow on Instagram, the Well Encounter Experience. Sponsored by Purity, Sadcore, Love 101 FM, Grace, Pepsi.
Hey, this is Love 101 FM, the family station. You are inside Engage, and it's time for your weekend rundown. Now, not much happening this weekend, but You don't want to miss these few events. Commercial Driver's License Limited presents a virtual conference on the abuse of women. This began today and will continue tomorrow under the theme Moving Forward, Revived and Restored. This conference will provide you with the adequate tools and resources for supporting abused women. And for more info, you can visit spuropen.com. Admission £10 or 10 US dollars, and start time is at 3 p.m. Dr. KJ and Radical Yard presents Embrace the Promise 4th and 5th chapters. This happens tomorrow at the Manning School grounds located in Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, and on Sunday at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center. There will be performances from Jermaine Edwards, Prodigal Son, Joan Flemings, international gospel artist Jonathan Nelson, and holy more. Trust me, children of God, you can't afford to miss that. Admission pre-sold $2,500, VIP $3,500, and at the gate $3,000. VIP $5,000 at the gate. Start time tomorrow is 6 p.m. and on Sunday it will be 5 p.m. Long Story Short is back tomorrow with an evening of short stories and laughter. It's an event staged every last Saturday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Lazy Lizard Lounge, Grosvenor Terrace in Kingston. It's a show where 8 storytellers share a true story about themselves under the theme It Was Like a Movie. Admissions pre-sold $1,500 and at the gate $2,000. Our upcoming event segment is sponsored by Spur Open. SpurOpen.com is a Jamaican online platform designed to simplify online payments from charities, churches, event organizers, and micro business owners. To register your events, go to SpurOpen.com/events, then click the button that says Get Started Now. And guess what? Registration is free, and your event doesn't have to be a paid event. Stay with us. Your world of music is coming up next.
On Saturday's edition of Sports Talk, internationally renowned cricket commentator Fazir Mohammed joins the show to discuss the future of the West Indies men's team after the resignation of head coach Phil Simmons following their embarrassing T20 World Cup exit. We'll also hear from the Sunshine Girls coaching staff as they prepare for the Fast 5 World Series, which begins next week in New Zealand. So join Sports Talk with me, Daniel Blake, this Saturday, October 29 from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
101.
Yeah. All right. So we are back, and online I have with me Tasia. Now, over the past few years, the animation scene in Jamaica has been picking up speed. Someone to say full speed ahead, featuring a lot of young people and their creative minds. And today, for International Animation Day, we'll be chatting with Tasia Winkle, and she will be talking us through her creative journey as a freelancer, illustrator, and 2D animator. Welcome, Tasia. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me today.
You sound so little.
I am.
You are, yes, you look very young, but you're doing mighty things and big works.
Thank you. Yes.
Awesome. You are welcome. Now, Tasia, before we talk about your work as an animator, take us back to age 9 where it all started for you. What was the discovery of that talent like?
Sure. So I would say that talent was sort of a book ups discovery.
Book
It was
ups?
yes. Drawing was something I like to do, and I had an app on my little Nintendo DS that allowed you to make little moving drawings. So I thought, okay, cool, let me try this out. So I would record these little scratchy audios with my DS against my grandma's radio, and I would play back the songs and then draw these little cartoon characters dancing to the music. And from there, I think it was just set in stone. This is something I just had to do.
And this was when you were 9.
Yes, I was very young.
What was I doing when I was nine? I don't even know. I think I was probably playing Dandy Shandy or something. But here you were doing lots of things. And who would have thought that even though you would be a 2D animator right now? Maybe you thought it was just, something fun playing around with it, right?
Yeah, I thought it was just like, yeah, just a little hobby I could just do on the side. And for years, many, many years after that, I was just kind of resigned to the fact that, oh, I have to get a real job. I have to do this, boo, 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 boo. And then eventually I said, you know what? Animation is a real job. I
Yeah,
found out it was a real job and I was extremely happy. And here I am doing my real job.
your real job. That's being an animator.
Yes.
And that's your full-time real job.
Yeah, that's my full-time real job. Like illustration and animation, that's 100% full-time for me.
Awesome, awesome. Did you receive any training or
Yes, I
anything?
did. So I went to the University of the West Indies for 3 years studying animation. So I have my bachelor's degree in that. But aside from that, I also did like online courses. I would draw from YouTube. I would attend a lot of seminars. So it's a very active and practical process. There isn't really just sit down, do the degree, and then bam, you can just draw and animate. It's a lot of like steps and processes to really build up to the point where you can say, okay, I can create work that's satisfactory for a client and for myself too.
Yeah, I can just imagine that it's a lot of work. No, you were formerly trained at the UE, as you mentioned. Talk to us more about that journey. What was it like for you, having this skill from you were younger, but formally being trained at UE and, going deeper into that? What was that like for you?
So it was a little intimidating. I remember I wasn't even going to choose animation first. I had gotten into 2 programs at UE and I sat there at my computer first and I was thinking about it like, which one should I choose? And I just went ahead with animation. But to prepare, I really started looking up things on YouTube. I downloaded a little app on my phone. At the time, I was drawing on my phone with my finger, trying to figure out how to like digitally draw because I knew that's something that I had to do if I wanted to animate. And then I got into UE and I realized that it was a lot of work, a lot more work than I was expecting because drawing for animation is a lot different to just drawing for yourself because there are certain technical skills that you have to get a good grasp on. And then after that, you have to be able to replicate that over and over and over again. So a lot of my homework would take hours of just me drawing, trying to complete like 20 hours of work or 12 hours of work to hand in for one single portfolio.
Oh my God.
So it was very, very stressful. But at the same time, I loved it. I loved doing that. I knew that that was one of the few things I could really see myself putting a lot of effort into and not feeling dissatisfied when I was done. And on top of that, too, I realized I had wanted to engage in student life as well. So I joined the Digital Media and Animation Club on top of that and became the secretary at one point. So I was juggling that and I was juggling school. And then on top of that, again, I got my first commission when I was in second year. And I felt woefully unprepared because I thought I didn't graduate yet. I'm so small. I'm not doing, all these big things like somebody wants me to draw for them. But I still said okay. And that's been a theme in my life, just saying okay to things and then, trying to build up to that level and create something that's satisfactory and pushing myself. And from there, I just kept getting more clients while I was in school. And then I became the president of the Digital Media and Animation Club while I was also volunteering up at Hollywood. So it was a whole lot of back and forth and movements. And I was just crazy electric with all this energy at UE, just doing my work and doing this animation and doing illustration on top of it. So I was just full of so much energy. And then the pandemic hit after that. And that really complicated things a lot more because I had to now use my own equipment. Before I was using the equipment at UE to really get most of my work done. But here's where the challenge came in. My equipment I had to use to do an aggressive amount of things that it was not used to doing. It was a fairly old laptop. So, there was always that fear, oh my God, I hope it doesn't crash in the middle of this assignment. So I just had all of that dealing with, as well as trying to pivot the club from being a physical club to being a digital. So I had to work on that transition as well. So really my whole journey at UE was just very high energy and chaotic and kind of just learning to pivot and rolling with the punches.
My God, how did you manage your time? Because doing all of that, plus being the president, plus your schoolwork, plus getting clients while still at school. How did you manage? How did you balance your time?
So luckily, in my first year, before most of this chaos, I would say, started, I had really gotten into planning out my time with a physical to-do list, as well as kind of minimizing certain routines that I had. So I would meal plan like weeks in advance and then go to the supermarket with this meal plan. So I'd only buy what I needed for those specific meal plans for this week. And I carried that over with me into my work. So I would give myself deadlines before my actual deadlines for when the work was due, so that at least I could finish it beforehand. And if I didn't, I still had a little bit more time to squeeze some extra effort out. And I also maintained a very strict sleep schedule, which I know is a challenge for a lot of people, but usually my bedtime is at 9:30 sharp. My phone even turns black and white from 9 o'clock to say time's a ticking, you gotta
Okay.
go to bed. So that's what I would do to kind of keep myself engaged, and I would try to make sure that my meals were usually well balanced, so I wouldn't just be eating extremely heavy foods or foods that weren't like nutrient dense. So I'd have enough energy to really get me through the day.
That's good. That's good. I love how you planned out your entire time and everything. It's really good. No, you are a freelance illustrator and 2D animator. Talk to us. Tell our listeners what's the difference between these two.
Sure. So illustration just has to do with drawings that are still. So you'd go to an art museum and you'd see a painting on the wall that would be still art. So there's no real movement in it usually.
Yes.
So that would be like drawings. Sometimes you'd see little comics. Those are illustrations as well. But animation is where the movements kick in. So that's like your Mickey Mouse, your SpongeBob, your Moana, those things. So it's just like putting life into drawings. And that step, if you're doing it traditionally, means multiple drawings every single second moving in front of your eyes. So it's like mimicking what your eyes do, where it captures these different moments instantly, and then because of how our eyes are, it blends together into this seamless movement. So that's what animation is, and that's what makes it different from illustration.
Okay, all right. Now, as an animator and illustrator, what do you specialize in?
Sure. So I specialize in picture book illustration for illustration, as well as 2D character illustration. And I specialize in 2D animation. So that means everything that I do is usually drawn by hand, or it's rigged into a computer and the puppets are flat.
Wonderful. Have you ever considered, perhaps going to work for, probably do some cartoons or because I love SpongeBob, so something like that. Have you ever considered that?
Yes, that's ultimately my goal. That's something I would absolutely love to do. I mean, I am absolutely in love with animation for cartoons and television. That's one of the first things that really caught my attention at the time. So that's something I would love to do.
Beautiful. And right now we're showcasing some of your pieces that, oh my gosh, they're beautiful. And
Thank
you've been
you.
doing this from much years ago. That's really good. You're very talented, I
Thank
must
you so
say.
much.
Yeah. Now, how technical is the process of creating an animated project?
Oh boy, I could speak for hours, but I'll just give you the lowdown about how it goes.
Yes.
So for 2D animation, usually it starts with like everything, an idea. So you kind of have a script that you would base it on. Some animations are storyboard driven, which means that you would just make like little comics to map out the beats of a story. So that's usually the one of the first things you do. You either have a physical script or you have a initial sketch storyboard that you would base your ideas on. And then after that, we move into okay, sometimes you can source the voice acting first, because sometimes it really helps if you know how the voices sound to know how the person
Yes.
acts. Because you don't want the voice to be woo excited, but the face is just flat. You
So,
don't want that to happen, right?
I know,
So
right?
sometimes it's really good to just get the voices in so you can have a general idea of what you want. Then you also have to hammer out what visual style do I really want this to have. If this is a serious cartoon, Do I want this to have people who look real and everything is black and white and looking very edgy with just spots of red? Or do I want it to be bright and colorful because it's for 3-year-olds? I want lots of bubbles. I want lots of cool shapes. I want things to keep them interested. That's something you really have to hammer out from early as well. There's also a huge research component as well. So before you even start the script, sometimes you start researching, and throughout the process, you keep getting feedback saying, okay, what's popular right now? What are the trends right now? What am I looking at to make this very appealing? So you'd go through all those different phases until you reach the initial phase to do the animatic. And an animatic is when you have the actual storyboard, which looks like a comic, but you splice it together to see just a couple individual movements to get the general flow of the story. Then after that, we get into the actual animation process. And that's when you map out all the different movements, how it will look. It won't always look very smooth at first because you want to make sure it's rough and you get the ideal movement you want. And then after that, we move on to the final animation where you do the final inking, you add the color according to what you sorted out beforehand with visual development, and you get your final animation after you composite it, add the sound effects, add everything else. And that's just like the general surface level of what really goes into it. It's a very labor intensive process.
And I can see that. Now, what would you say is the most tedious part of this, of your work?
I would say the most tedious part is just the animation itself. Like the actual animation process can be very tedious because if you don't, for one, have something that you can actively look at as a reference, it can be a little tricky to figure out exactly the right way to portray a movement. We see each other move every day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy to draw. I mean, something as simple as a walk cycle, just walking normally, is one of the most difficult skills to do in animation because it's so technical and it involves a lot of different things like timing and squash and stretch and how to really pace it and give it personality and all those different things. So I think the actual animation process itself really is the most tedious.
All right. And how do you manage when you have creators block?
Oh boy. Usually when I have creators block, I would stop what I'm doing and I would either watch something that I really like. There are a few shows that I usually go back to depending on what exactly I'm doing. So one show that I like going back to is BoJack Horseman. I also enjoy watching SpongeBob as well.
Yeah.
So those two, yeah. So those two shows I really can go back to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Sometimes I might watch something a lot more recent that just came out, or I might just go into nature and talk to my birds because that's something I do and I consult with them like they're my little meeting circle, like they're my board of directors, and I'm like, guys, I'm having trouble figuring this out, what do you think? And they'll just look at me and tweet and I'm just like, that makes so much sense, you're
Wow.
so smart. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Now, what would you say is the most rewarding part of being an animator?
The most rewarding part has to be at the end of the process when you see the work, because during it, it feels like you're in a cave and you're kind of just digging and you're just waiting to find that light. And you sometimes can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but then when you reach there, you just have this big sigh of relief and you see the thing move and you're just reminded why you love doing this so much. That is the most rewarding part for me.
Oh, beautiful. Now, Tasia Winkle, your work has been featured on Sesame Street. A big deal that you know. A popular program that folks can relate to here in Jamaica. How did that happen?
Sure. So it happened when I was in my final year of university. I got approached by a fellow animator named George Hay for a pitch to Sesame Workshop, which gets content for Sesame Street. And we were supposed to come up with a concept for one of their show segments, their animated segments. And at first, I was going to say no because I was so overwhelmed with my final year project and my club and my volunteering and everything. But I just said, yes, I'll do it. Because I mean, why am I going to say no? You know? So I roped in another one of my friends who was doing the program with me into it. And we both started doing the content for it along with George. And we were just working at this until eventually we got through the pitch and we won the competition. And after that, they were like, all right, we're gonna make this thing. So we're gonna go back and forth with our executives, and we're gonna figure out the best way to do this with a budget and everything. So for a few months, I think about 9 months, we were in this very intense process of like working out the best way to do this and how to get this done in the right amount of time with the right amount of budget and depending on what they wanted. But we also wanted to make sure it had a Caribbean twist, so we put manatees in there as well. So it was just a whole back and forth process trying to find the right music, the right sound, the right visuals, and eventually it just became this beautiful and cute little animated manatee short
Yes.
about counting to the number 8.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, as we wrap, Tasia, how can people connect with you?
Sure, so you can reach out to me on Instagram and on Twitter at artby_txj, or you can send me an email at ahjat1@gmail.com if you have any inquiries for animation or illustration related purposes, or if you just want to see my work.
All right. Thank you so much, Tasia Winkle, for joining us.
No problem.
All right. If you're just joining us, we are you're inside Engage, and yeah, thank you so much. And it's now time for your world of music.